Hey kids, Chris here, day 13 of the 31 days of Halloween, Thursday, October 13th, and I do have a brief entry today, and I know the 3 or 4 of you who watch these videos are like, yeah, right, he says that every time, and it never is. But it is today, because usually I do these late at night, and I figure, all I have to do is go to sleep. Who needs sleep? I do. I'm starting to hallucinate. But anyway, this will be brief because I have to go to work, so I'm doing this right before I get started with the work day. I want to just talk about 2 things, and since it's the 13th day of the 13 days of Halloween, but not Friday the 13th, but Thursday, I thought we should talk about the Friday the 13th films in some way, and that's where this mask comes in. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this is kind of maybe to do sort of a public service. First of all, let me just be really upfront here at the beginning. I have never been a big fan of the Friday the 13th movies. And I've tried, not all of them, but I've tried a few of them here and there. And the first one I think is okay. In fact, I own it. I got it for $5 one Halloween season when it was $5 at Walmart. And I like the first one because it's, how can I describe it? It's not as schlocky, it's not as campy, it's not as kind of obvious as the others. I mean, it's got a lot more suspense, and there's some more quality filmmaking going on in the first one. Now, let's just briefly talk about the fact that the only reason there were Friday the 13th movies is because I want to say 2 or 3 years prior to the first one, there was this little movie called Halloween, which was a huge independent movie success, right? And so because of that, everybody said, like we see in Hollywood all the time, right? Well, now we've got to have a slasher movie. And so the idea here was they took the season of Halloween, the holiday, if you will, of Halloween. We're going to take Friday the 13th. That'll be our recurring theme. And so then they made their movie. The killer in that movie, spoiler, if you've never seen it, is not Jason Voorhees. It's his mother, Pamela Voorhees. And so I like the first one. I think it's okay. It's not great by any means. A lot gorier, ironically enough. Halloween is not gory. I think people think it's gory because the later movies were. The first Halloween by John Carpenter is not at all gory. It's got some blood and, some stabbing, but you never see the blood. And so I think that's very interesting because it's about what you don't see, it's about what you imagine, and those are my kind of horror movies, the ones that really require the viewer to use their imagination. So I have watched parts of the second one, the original, part 2, and then also part 3. And they're okay. I mean, what worries me about a lot of these movies is that they have kind of devolved into let's create new ways to kill people. And then there are people who are like, let's go watch this to see how people are killed. And I'm not judging, but I'm just saying that's not why I watch a horror movie. I watch it for a good story and to be scared and to see some craft go on there. Because, it's an art to really scare somebody intelligently, I think. That's just me. Gore doesn't scare me. That's why Saw doesn't do anything for me, and I think it's a little icky, to be quite honest, a little weird that so many people like this torture porn stuff, as it's called. So anyway, this is not a public service announcement. I apologize. So let's talk about this mask. Now, look, since I'm not a big fan, I have never really gone into getting a Jason Voorhees hockey mask because I just never thought, hey, I really never cared enough. But this year I thought, well, it's time that I get one for the collection, just because I don't know what I'm going to wear for Halloween night, but it's going to be a mask of some sort. So I decided to go and look for these, and I had looked over the years and come across replicas of the mask. And let's talk about what you can get. If you go to Walmart, the Dollar General, as some people might call it, you can get very cheap, flimsy knockoff masks that are not going to be labeled Friday the 13th because they can't be, right, because of rights and all that. You can buy that for like $4 or $5. I'm sure, let me put it this way, if you're not a horror movie aficionado or fan of Friday the 13th, probably no one's going to be like, oh, that's not an screen-accurate mask. But at the same time, if you are even just a bit geeky, then you're going to want some kind of accuracy there and feel like, oh yeah, it looks like it does in the movie. And that's how I am. I like movie accuracy. So then you can go to the next level, kind of, which is the replicas made by fan companies. And so what they do is these guys are huge fans of mask making and of these movies in particular. They've seen the originals, taken molds, and they make copies of those, and those are 60 and upward, and you can buy them on eBay, and that's way too much for me. I'm not interested in doing that. And then you can also try it yourself, and I tried that last year. Spirit Halloween has a great glow-in-the-dark hockey mask, and I don't have it around here right now, but they're cheap. They're made of a hard plastic, and you can spray paint them so that they don't glow in the dark, so they look like a hockey mask, and you're done. If you wanted it just to be a glow-in-the-dark mask, it would be really cool, I would think, because it would glow, and that would be a neat thing. You put a hoodie over it, and it would really pop. You walk around trick-or-treating, and you got a pretty cool mask there. Now, what I decided to do was go somewhere in between all of these different masks, and that's where our friends at eBay come in, right? I wish they were giving me money, but they're not. So eBay has a bunch of knockoff masks, but then they also have these masks that look very accurate. So this mask, all in white, with the straps, on eBay. Like $5, okay? And they are made in China, or as Donald Trump would say, China. I can't do it. But anyway, they're made in China, and you can buy probably dozens of them at a pretty good deal. And so if I were the kind of person with the time to flip these, then that's what I would do. That's what this is, a flipped mask. So, and I know that because of this reason. The eBay listing for this mask, just the white one, the guy that makes these or owns them is selling them, says there's a production error, there's a hole right here, you can't see it. But then on Amazon, where I bought this, mask comes in, there's the hole. So that tells me that either that guy is flipping his masks and selling them on eBay, or someone else is buying that guy's masks and doing the same. Could be both, doesn't really matter. So, and that could be a way to make a profit, I guess, if you have the money to invest in it and the time to do it. So you can select, I think there's 9 options, because all the movies have had different looks to the mask. This is part 3. The story behind this mask in the movie behind the scenes was they needed to look for Jason. Of course, Jason's the killer in the second, not the first movie. And he had a mask, hood on his head, like a sack, really. And then in the third movie, they said, we need something. One of the production staff had a hockey mask. They made a mold of that in their own version, which they then made unique, kind of like what you heard about with the Scream mask. You have to kind of make it your own. And bam, here we go. So this replica here, $9 delivered, right? It was Prime eligible, so I got it free shipping. You can't go wrong. 3 straps, so the cheap masks at the dollar store or Walmart are not going to have that. It's got the coloring and the weathering, and then it's got these stickers. So this is an accurate Jason Voorhees mask, enough for me, right? As not a huge fan, but cool enough to go on my shelf of masks. $8 or $9 on Amazon. If anybody watching, of the 3 or 4 that are, who it might be wanting to get a Jason Voorhees mask, let me know, and I'll put the link in the comments. Finally, to wrap up, today at 8 a.m. began the 20th annual FearFest on AMC. And I don't know about you, but that's always been a yearly tradition for me. I can remember when it was Monster Fest before it got renamed to FearFest. And back in the old days, it started in 1996, and you used to have like classic horror movies on there, black and white, and that I really love. And they had, the Universal stuff and Nosferatu, and they'd play a lot of these great movies. Now they play more modern stuff. It's a mix, but they really don't play as much of the black and white classics as I would like, which is fine because I enjoy some of the stuff that's on there. Over 80 movies, kids, for this 20th anniversary edition of FearFest. So they're going to have pretty much all of the Halloween series. They're going to have most of the Friday the 13th, most of Nightmare on Elm Street. They're also going to have The Exorcist, a couple of the Omen films. I don't know why you put The Exorcist on there, but they're going to edit out a lot of stuff. What else? Oh, they've got a couple of the Alien movies. I don't know which ones exactly, but they've got over 80, so I'm missing a bunch, right? Because there's plenty more in there. And they're going to rotate these. They started today at 8 a.m. with Halloween, and they're showing, I think, Halloween 1, 2, 3, and then maybe 4 all day, and then they're going to start over. And then they're going to interrupt that to replay last season of The Walking Dead to lead up to Sunday night's premiere. I myself gave up on that show last year. I'll watch it out of morbid curiosity probably this Sunday night, but that's it. So check out FearFest 20th anniversary. Some good movies on there. They're going to have some other stuff as well, some more obscure stuff. You just have to kind of set your DVR for like 3 in the morning, look in your listings and see when that's on. And that's what I enjoy. But I just love that I can put it on there and there's some horror-themed movie on in the background during the Halloween season. Thanks so much, kids, and you will see me again tomorrow. Enjoy this 13th day of the 31 days of Halloween.